I plan to do more voice work, and I feel a proper microphone will definitely help. A condenser microphone will help with that. Insofar as having less noise when I speak, doesn't take in all the ambient sounds. Like you could probably hear the fans of my computer going right now. That's kind of annoying too. My setup is not very quiet. So something that will be better suited for taking in vocals. I think I know what I'm going to get to. So I think it's called like a snowball or something like that. And it's called that because it kind of looks like a snowball. It's very, well, it's a circular mic. Circular. Circular. There we go. And it's got a pop filter and it sounds pretty decent. I think Markiplier has one. That's what he uses. And PewDiePie uses, I think the brand is called Blue. And ironically, none of the microphones are actually blue. I think for the longest time, Hughes's microphone was actually orange. He had an orange one. So let's add some details that make this really stand out. So huh, yeah. So a while ago, I was actually meant to do a series of videos where I just kind of read off the lore from the Elder Scrolls series, the endgame books that they have. And for a friend that was in the hospital because he had a really bad flare-up. It turns out he has Crohn's disease, which is crazy how popular, well, not popular, but common Crohn's disease actually is. Like, I had no idea so many people were afflicted with this, and it's an issue. You know, it really prevents them from living their lives as they want to sometimes, especially if they don't seek treatment soon enough. And this guy had gone undiagnosed for years. So anyway, he's all better now. Well, as good as one can be with Crohn's. So anyway, and it occurred to me, maybe I should have just streamed it, and then we could have gone from there with that. Because I did record some of it, but I didn't really like how it turned out. And plus, I kind of really dislike editing. Like, I hate editing because it's so tedious. And you can see green on my fingers because I made the kid some green eggs. But yeah, anyway, so it would have been easier to like just stream it on Twitch. He would have been able to watch it at his leisure, since I have it set so that all my streams are archived, although they do disappear automatically after a while. So that's one thing, but yeah. So yeah, in addition to doing some more voice work, um, I feel it would be also really good to have a condenser mic for recording vocals for demos that I do. Speaking of which, that's another thing that came up. My guitar died. My electric guitar. I have an acoustic, but for anyone that knows anything, an acoustic guitar and an electric guitar are almost two very different instruments. Very different instruments. You can do a lot of the same things, but overall the sound, for example, is very different. So you'll be able to take advantage of all the feedback within the guitar from the pickups. So you can actually use that to make music of a sort. So I have to, at some point, save up money for a new guitar because I actually do need a new guitar. You know, some people will say, you don't need this, you don't need that. But listen, when you're a musician and you like the tools of your trade, what have you got? You've got a book full of ideas that will likely not be realized because you have no way of expressing those ideas. That's like being a painter with no paint. I mean, yeah, you can conceptualize all you want about how you want to do something, how you want to express things, but until you actually have the materials necessary, it's likely not to be realized. Um, or it's like if you're an accountant, but you have no spreadsheet software, you have no calculator. Uh, I'm a musician, I'm an artist, and I require the tools of my trade to express my ideas. And yeah, just because I'm not necessarily a professional artist doesn't make it any less important that I have what I need. And then, of course, we have income tax coming in soon. The refunds, rather. I've already filed my taxes. I filed them pretty much the day that I got them. And I'm just waiting for the refunds to come in, which apparently are being postponed for many people, including myself, because so many people have applied for earned income tax credit, and because of recent policy changes, uh, auditors have to be much more thorough than usual to prevent fraud. You know, so that the government isn't necessarily paying out millions and trillions of dollars to people that don't deserve it. So I plan on using that money, whatever bit that I get, to get my son new clothes. He doesn't necessarily need new clothes, but he's a growing boy. He's very tall already. I am like 5'10", 5'11", and he's all the way up to my armpit. He's only 9. That's really tall for a 9-year-old, and he's still growing. I know this because when you have children, you know to look for signs of growth spurts, and one of those things is an increased appetite. And it's not just like eating a lot necessarily, so much as it is eating a lot for that specific child. Like my son Misha, he's not an eater. He doesn't really eat a lot. He's Yeah, he doesn't eat a lot. But that said, he when he has a growth spurt, will eat a lot, a lot, especially for him. So yeah, new clothes, especially new shoes. I don't know what it is, but somehow he always like ruins his shoes fairly quickly. I'm trying to think like when I was a kid, how many pairs of shoes did would I go through, and how quickly? And yes, there is. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure they lasted longer than Misha's. But that said, it could be that shoes are not made nearly as well, or maybe he's just a bit more reckless in his play than I was as a kid. And that reminds me, the other day, and by the other day, I mean last night, my friend had posted a picture of like what he used to do in the 90s, what kids used to do in the 90s. And I can vouch that it wasn't just in Europe, where he was from, but it happened here a lot too. And the picture was of a kid on a mountain bike jumping over his friends laid down adjacent to a ramp. And I used to do that kind of stuff like all the time too. One of my favorite things was riding my bike through our neighborhood all day long. And that's literally all I did. I was just riding my bike all day long. Not really necessarily doing anything, but except maybe try to go faster than I normally would. Or try to go as fast as I can. Try to pedal as fast as I could. So, and at one point, we actually had one of those speed limit things that tell you how fast you're going posted up to see, you know, how fast people were going down our particular street, or main street. And, you know, I was so happy about that because then I could finally see how fast I was going. So I would clock in about like 20 something miles an hour, which I think is fairly impressive for a kid. So, but yeah. But my top favorite thing to do as a child, I loved climbing, which is crazy because like I was a chubby kid. I'm not gonna lie, I was chubby. Like I was 90 pounds going into middle school essentially, or close to it. I wasn't like fat, but I was chubby. And eventually, you know, puberty hit and I grew taller, which displaced some of the weight. So I still would weigh the same amount, more or less, but because I grew taller, the weight kind of stretched out and redistributed as appropriate. And anyway, I would love to just climb anything and everything, trees, and we have this embankment essentially over by the shipyard. We have a shipyard here, and it has a lot of overgrowth, and I would love to just climb through there because it was basically like a wall of vines and a lot of trees all right there mashed together in a small area. And I would just like run through it and jump through it and climb through it all day, like it was an adventure. Like I was in like Raiders of the Lost Ark or something like that. You know, it's a lot of fun. That's how we entertained ourselves. Like when we were too poor to afford video games and the such. We also had Blockbuster back then, so. But that said, we didn't rent video games like all the time. I played them whenever I could, but we owned very few video games, so a lot of times I spent playing video games at my friend's house. And yeah, we also had, some of us had Game Boys. I only had like one game. It was a Pokemon